song is not about Donald Trump, but we just had somebody who called in who mentioned that song, and I think I mentioned the song when he said Donald Trump is so vain, which he is. I think I just found the official song of the White House. That is the official song of Donald Trump. It is by Carly Simon, You're So Vain. There you go. That was before my time. Yeah, that was before my time. JD, you need to turn your mic on. JD, your mic's not even on. What are you doing? What'd you say?
How original, Brian.
I am very original. Very rich. It's just an original song. So you have one of your family members in studio. We're going to get to him in just a second, but we do have a few people that have been waiting patiently on hold.
I have my grandfather in studio.
We'll get to that in just a few minutes here, but we do have a few people that have been waiting patiently on hold. The number to call, by the way, 257-5396. You won't find a more interactive show than ours, folks, in Las Vegas anyway. Can't speak for other counties. Let's go to Kelly. Kelly, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. What's on your mind today?
Nothing. Answer your question you posed to the other guy. I do think Trump will be reelected and serve another 4 years. Just look at who's running against him so far. I mean, they're either, they already have problems like Elizabeth Warren.
Warren has absolutely zero chance. I don't like Elizabeth Warren, never have.
Right.
I think Booker, I think he's a respectable guy, but I don't think he has a chance either. And I think the only person, Kelly, and I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm just saying the only person that does have a chance right now against Donald Trump is Joe Biden. The only guy that has a chance.
Big bad Joe Biden.
Yeah.
He will lose in a historic landslide, Brian.
Well, I mean,
what's it called again?
Yeah.
Kamala Harris, she and Booker today have endorsed the Green Deal, which I'm not sure you've seen how insane that is.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that. Yeah.
Well, you don't like flying in the air anymore? Because they're going to get rid of that.
Look, the problem with some of these people are that they're a little bit too far to the left. Like, for example, Cortez. Now, I think she's extremely hot. Let me just start by saying that. I would absolutely date her. But with that being said...
And that's very important.
It is extremely important. Are you kidding me? It's very important with the way I vote. That's why I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Anyway, that's another story for another day. But no, in all seriousness, she wants $15 an hour minimum wage. Same thing Bernie Sanders wants. That is insane. I don't want a 16-year-old working at Mickey D's making $15 an hour because that is nuts. But at the same time, I think she makes a very good point that I believe some of these large companies are taking advantage of people, like a Walmart. Do they sponsor our show, JD? No, they don't. Thank goodness. No, I mean, come on. The wages are not livable, but I'm not saying a 16 or 17-year-old should be making $15 an hour either. I'm not saying that college should be free. Cortez does. Bernie Sanders does. That's ludicrous. That's insane. However,
Kamala Harris does now, and so does Cory Booker.
And
they've endorsed it.
And that's why I wouldn't vote for them, because I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it, Kelly.
One thing that she said today, and it's not even about that, she held a little, quick press conference about ICE, and she, wants to abolish ICE and get rid of that. And I quote, she's like, we are a land of laws. And she goes, and anyone who sets foot on our soil should have, everything. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We're a land of laws.
Well, look, as
they come here illegally, then
Kelly,
you can't have it both ways.
As a Republican as you are, who voted for Donald Trump, you're not going to have to worry about these people. They are not a threat to Donald Trump. I'm telling you right now.
What do you mean these people?
Well, I'm talking about the people on the left that I don't think have a chance to defeat Donald Trump. And Booker and Kamala, they don't have a chance. I'm telling you who does, and it is Joe Biden. Kelly, I always appreciate it when you call in. Good to hear from you. Thank you very much. Let's take another quick phone call here. 257-5396 is the number to call in. Let's go to Brody, who's been waiting patiently on hold. Brody, thank you for calling in. How are you?
Hey, Brody.
Hey, doing great. How are y'all doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to talk to y'all about, everybody's been talking about Trump's tax returns and this. Have y'all seen the documentary Active Measures?
I have not.
You need to watch it. Donald Trump has been laundering money for the Russians for 20 years.
And if that's the case, Brody, I want to find out about it, and I want him prosecuted for it.
Watch the documentary Active Measures. Look at how many Russian criminals have been arrested in Trump properties. There are certain properties that Trump owns that are over 70% owned by Russians.
Now, if that is true, the problem is who made that documentary and how do we know how factual it is? And I'm not saying you're wrong, but, I watched this documentary, Brody, about the Ferguson shooting. I think it was called Low-Hanging Fruit, and it was absolute garbage. It was absolute garbage.
This isn't. I mean, and I'm just saying, I know a lot of people, but I mean, Hillary's in this documentary. A lot of really big name people are in this documentary. The documentary is nothing but factual. All you have to do is watch it. It will blow your mind. I know Trump supporters that I've had watch this documentary.
Here's what I want you to do.
There's a 0% chance that Trump was laundering money for the Russians.
Here's what
this documentary, and they're like, 100% he's been laundering
Brody, here's what I want you to do. I am going to do this for you, Brody, because you bring this up. Find me on Twitter at The Vegas Take. Post that on Twitter. Give me like a preview of it, or just put something on there, a link. I promise you I will watch it this week, and then on Monday I want you to call in on Monday, and I will actually tell you what I thought about it. Can you do that for us?
Yeah, sure. It's on Hulu. Everybody can watch it.
Okay,
it's
good. I will watch it, Brody.
And it will blow your mind.
Okay.
The amount of Russians they've busted 3 in Trump Tower. They busted 3 money.
If that's true,
in Trump Tower.
If that's true, then I want to find out about it. I am a fan of anything that blows my mind, so I will definitely watch it, Brody. Thank you.
It totally blew my mind. He had a guy walk into Trump Tower with $5 million cash, a Russian criminal, and buy 5 condos in Trump Tower. Mm-hmm. And they were all attached to
and Brody, I appreciate the call. Got to get to some other things here, but I will absolutely check it out. Look, if any of that stuff is true, we're going to find out about it in the Mueller investigation. We're certainly going to find out about it if he releases his tax returns. So let's wait and see how this process goes about. I am for Trump showing his tax returns, as I think Republicans should be as well. Let's see what's in his tax returns. That stuff will show up. Let's find out what this investigation, shows. And then let's take it from there, man. That's what we got to do. Okay, so before we get to some more calls, and by the way, if you want to join the program, the number to call is 257-5396. Again, 702-257-5396. We do have some people on hold, but I want to get to this. It's not every day that Mr. J.D. Sharp, my co-host, has some family members here. You got a lot of your family here today, man. You got your grandparents here, right? You got your child here. What's going on, man? It's like a family get-together in the studio. What's up?
It's a family reunion at Beasley Broadcasting.
I like that.
Very brief, just a couple hours.
I like that.
We just happen to choose this place.
I like that.
I've got my grandfather, grandmother, wife, daughter, and a good friend of mine.
I like that.
Stephen.
Well, you got your grandpa Jim in studio as well. And Jim wanted to come in, and I wanted to get Jim's take on the D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S. because I know he has an opinion on that. He happens to be a former political science teacher, so a good person to have in to talk about this issue. So, Jim, thanks for coming on, first of all, and thank you for your great-grandson being a fantastic host. You just got to get him to show up on time a little bit more. Not that he's great.
Okay? I appreciate being here.
Sure.
And I love J.D.
Yes.
He's a heck of a fine young man.
Oh, I thought you were talking about our caller.
No,
okay.
I'm proud of J.D.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay?
Well,
let me talk about the D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S.
Sure, let's hear it.
First of all, I'm going to speak from the perspective of a retired high school principal because that's what I did for 30 years.
Oh, boy, you wouldn't have liked me in high school.
And I'd have loved you because anybody that didn't follow the straight and narrow was my buddy.
You would have, okay, then I guess you would have loved me.
I'd have loved you, and I'd have taken care of you, man. I'd have taken care of you.
Good.
I'd have been your best buddy.
Good.
Anyway, my experience is that I've dealt with hundreds of D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S. My school that was most involved was in Dodge City, Kansas. Dodge City is the center of meat production. 8,000 cattle, all kinds of feed yards, and so we had any number of immigrants who would come and work. The thing about the D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S. was they were committed to improving their lives. Their parents were committed. Mm-hmm. They were great people. Often people accuse illegal immigrants of wanting to vote. They don't want to vote. They want to maintain a low profile, and that's the way they were in school. The parents did not argue. In fact, if I were to compare my D.R.E.A.M.E.R. parents with the regular parents, they created fewer problems and were more cooperative. So D.R.E.A.M.E.R. kids are the salt of the earth, and I don't know of a one, and this is a true statement, who, for example, has been guilty of a felony. Anyway, here's what I think ought to happen. Right now we have a great conflict between the Republicans, Democrats, between Trump and his wanting the wall, mm-hmm. and the Democrats who are concerned about the D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S.
Right.
My suggestion is that it's a prime opportunity for people to compromise. Why not? Barack Obama had an executive order to protect D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S. from being sent out of the country, from mm-hmm. being deported. And Donald Trump overrode that executive order and took the protections away. It appears to me
Yeah.
And I want both protection from deportation and a path to citizenship.
But
on the other hand, we ought to then give Trump and his people some barriers. Let's spend some
Jim,
money.
you mentioned the word compromise.
Oh, I understand.
Do you know how difficult it is for Donald Trump to compromise, and some of these Democrats too, to compromise with people on the other side? So you mentioned that. I'm with you. I wish they could compromise. Let me ask you this question before we take some more calls.
Go for it.
What do you make of Donald Trump when he says these people crossing our border, they're rapists, they're bad people? What do you make of these kids in cages? And look, during the Obama administration, we had some of those similar images. So Obama's not perfect when it comes to that either. What do you make of those images, and what do you make of Trump just going after these illegals like they're all bad people?
My expectations as a principal of my staff and my kids was that they would live by the golden rule, that they would treat others the way they wanted to be treated, that they would not call people things, that they would not bully people, that they would be honest. Obviously, Donald Trump does not meet those expectations.
I would
personal
concur.
Expectations in terms of integrity and character that I have to drive my life and how I will judge you and other people.
Right.
He doesn't meet those expectations.
I don't either, because as you know, I do call people names on this show. But then again, I'm not the president of the United States. Well, how about we take some phone calls, and then maybe they'll ask you some questions about this. Being a former political science teacher, and you've dealt with these dreamers before, so hopefully somebody will call in and ask you some questions, not just call me names. 257-5396 is the number to call. Why don't we start with Brad? Brad, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Oh, great. Love your show. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Brad.
Actually, I had a comment about the Russian investigation, but you were looking for calls on the Dreamers?
You can ask me. You know what? Since you gave me such a nice compliment, Brad, and you enjoy the show, I'm going to give you 2 questions. What do you think about that? If you kiss my ass on this show, you get 2 questions. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Love your show.
Thank you.
Really, it's kind of a question comment. You know, the Russia collusion and the Russians stole the election, et cetera, narrative is kind of difficult to defend when you look back at the comments that Obama made all the way up to the election, how they couldn't steal the election and how it was impossible.
Right.
Secondly, when he, on the hot mic, said to I think it was Medvedev.
I remember when he was sitting with the 2. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. When he was sitting with the 2 Russians, and he said,
he told Vlad after the election, I'll be able to do a lot more.
A lot more if I'm reelected.
Means what?
Yeah. I did not like it when he said that, and he did not know that mic was hot. And I am not an apologist for Barack Obama. No, sir, Brad. I am not.
What if Trump had said that?
I would have had the same reaction,
No, but I mean, you see how they're investigating him now. I mean, what if they had heard him, actually say that?
Well, that's a good point.
Hey, you know what?
That's a good point, but I'm not sure Barack Obama has the same ties that allegedly Donald Trump has to Russia. I think that's certainly a big part of it. But you bring up a good point. I was, that raised a lot of eyebrows, at least for me. Yeah.
Okay, that was my
Thank
point.
You.
I mean, I have points on the Dreamers, but
go ahead. Why don't you ask Jim a question? Go ahead, because Jim was just talking. But go ahead.
I mean, I really think that the whole immigration debate isn't really about rapists. It's not about any of those extraneous things that they're arguing about. It's really about the number of voters that each side gets. And immigrants, I don't know whatever numbers you're looking at, but 80% of the immigrants that come in are Democrat voters. I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, because their thoughts are that they're going to get more services, more public services.
All right. Well, why don't we let Jim comment on that? And Brad, I appreciate the phone call. I got to get to some more calls. Thank you for calling in. We appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. One of the interesting thing about the Dreamers is that they came here as 2- and 3-year-olds. And their younger brothers and sisters automatically are citizens. And ultimately, down the road, I do think that it's going to make an impact. And that's one of the reasons why they're being attacked. So I don't disagree with you.
Right. And many of these people, they're going to wash your dishes. They mow your lawn.
Absolutely.
And again, we're talking about the majority. Whatever percentage you want to give, the majority of these people are good people. And I've
very good people and very high percentage.
Without question. Let's take another phone call at 257-5396. Let's go to Larry. Larry, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Oh, I'm just entertained by the idea of Biden running for president. Just somebody brought up a quote from him back, must have been about the 60s, where he was advocating George Wallace having a place in the Democratic Party.
Well, I mean, we can take a lot of quotes from a lot of people from 50 or 60 years ago. I mean, I could probably name you about 5,000 quotes that Donald Trump has said in the last 2 years that are absolutely ridiculous. I'm sure there are times where Joe Biden said some bad things. Here's my opinion, Larry, on Joe Biden, and you can tell me whether you agree or not, okay? Regardless of his politics, I do think he is a good man that has suffered some horrible tragedies in his life, and he served this country honorably. He was also a friend of John McCain. He was able to reach across the aisle and make great friendships with people on the other side. I respect Joe Biden, and I think Joe Biden up there on a stage with Donald Trump, two cranky old men going at it, is exciting to me. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, as far as McCain goes, politically, he is an idiot. No, he didn't stand for anything.
Well, he did stand for this country, didn't he? He did serve this country honorably, Larry, did he not?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so I don't like to.
That's why I said politically.
Okay, but politically, you can disagree with him. I wouldn't really call him an idiot. I think that's a little bit. I'm not going to say that about somebody that has served this country honorably. You could say some of his views are not up to your standards, whatever those standards are. But you also have to. You see, this is my problem, Larry, with your opinion. You support Donald Trump, a man who went after John McCain in his service and said he didn't respect him because he was captured. I've never heard you call up and complain about that.
That was horrendous, horrendous.
It was to me. It should have disqualified him as president. I'm sorry.
Why did McCain start this whole feud they had by going after Trump?
Because I think he has something that Donald Trump doesn't have, and it's called class.
McCain never had class.
Oh, really? And you're going to tell me Donald Trump does, Larry? Come on, you're losing credibility, man. You started this conversation fine, and now you're losing credibility again. It's like every time you call up, you make a couple decent points, and then you just lose it, man. What are you're going to tell me on this show right now that can be heard in I don't know how many states on a 50,000-watt station that John McCain has no class and Donald Trump does? Is that what you're going to say on this show right now? A man who served this country honorably, who was captured, who suffered. I'm sorry?
She is on his wife just because they found someone that had more money.
I'm asking you a question. You're telling me you don't think John McCain had any class, but Donald Trump does. Is that what you're telling me, Larry, on this show? It's a yes or no question. I'm waiting. It's a yes or no question.
I do believe that Trump has shown more class at times.
Okay, well, you know what? You called John McCain an idiot. That opinion makes you an idiot. What do you think about that? That is insane. How can you call into this show and make a comment like that? If you want to go after John McCain's politics, that's fine. I don't have a problem. I don't agree with his politics. I didn't like John McCain. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for John McCain. JD, would you ever make a comment like that? Would you ever say John McCain has no class, a man who served this country honorably as a prisoner of war, and then Larry calls up and can't say a lick?
McCain was actually arguably one of the most formal presidential candidates in the last 20 years.
Yeah, do you remember, JD, that's a good point. Do you remember when McCain was running for president?
He had so much class, he didn't relate to anybody.
Do you remember, JD? I'm glad you brought that up. Do you remember? I wonder if both of you guys remember this, Jim. Do you remember when McCain was running for president? He's making a speech, and this moron, this lady, stands up, and she calls him a Muslim terrorist. And then McCain does what I think many people on the right would never do. He takes the microphone from her. This was one of those moments where I said, wow, I really, really respect this man more than I ever have. He takes the microphone from her, and he says, no, ma'am. Barack Obama is a good man. And then he says, we can disagree politically. We disagree on some things, but Barack Obama is a good man. You know what? John McCain was right. Say what you want about Barack Obama, but he is a decent human being. I would not say the same about Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I just wouldn't, Jim. I wouldn't.
So talk about class. That may have been one of the most politically, and it probably hurt him.
It might have, but I respect him
a
great deal for doing that. I've always respected John McCain. Didn't always agree with him. The man served this country honorably, and I can't stand Trump supporters like that who think it's okay to bash a prisoner of war, and then Donald Trump can do no wrong. You have absolutely no credibility. Zero. Larry, yes, I'm talking to you. You're one of those people. Why don't we take one more call? I believe JD has a question for Jim. JD, I'll give you another shot at it. Jim's right here. He's talking about Dreamers. We only got a couple minutes. Go ahead, JD.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Jim, welcome to Las Vegas. I hope you have a great time.
Thanks.
I would ask you to respond. During the discussions months ago, President Trump offered to give 800,000 Dreamers amnesty. The Democrats were asking for Dreamers to get amnesty for 800,000. and President Trump offered 1.8 million, and the Democrats walked away. How do you respond to that, sir?
Well, I don't have a response to it. I don't recall it, but to me, if that kind of deal was on the table and they were going to receive amnesty, maybe they were holding out for a path to citizenship. I don't have any idea, but I have no way of defending it.
Well, that was in the news, sir. It was very high profile. Pelosi and Schumer refused the deal for whatever reasons, and President Trump put it on the table. 1.8 million dreamers. They have a pass, and they would not agree to it, sir.
Oh, I can't defend that because obviously I believe that kind of a deal ought to be snatched up immediately, and that's all I'm asking.
Political science major, I think you want to be aware of the things that are being said about President Trump in regard to the Dreamers, and I thank you very much.
All right, JD.
Your point's well taken.
Thank you for going in. Well, look, if you're unaware of that, I'm unaware of that. If that's true, that's true. I don't know. I just try to speak what I know. Okay, and it doesn't mean I'm always going to be right. I have a lot of opinions that a lot of people disagree with, especially when it comes to UNLV basketball.
No, you're right all the time, every day, 24/7.
When it comes to certain things, usually poker, I'm usually right 99.9% of every hand. Usually I can figure out what you got. But look, that's the type of problem I have in our political climate right now. Not what JD just said. That was a fine call. I'm talking about Larry who called in. There are a lot of people like Larry who want to go after politicians, people that aren't even alive, and people like John McCain who served the country honorably. And they think it's okay to insult people like that who are prisoners of war and go after their service. But yet, when it comes to Donald Trump, he can do no wrong. It's like when Donald Trump said, I can be on 51st Street and shoot somebody and they'll still vote for me. Well, guess what? When Hillary Clinton called you a deplorable, that's who she was talking about. Not the Trump supporters like J.D. Sharp. He's not a deplorable, even though I do call him that on occasion. No, he's not. But I'm being serious now. Larry, I'm sorry, you are a deplorable if you think it's okay to do that. Just going to tell it like it is, man. That's what we do on this show. I'm just kidding, JD. You're not a deplorable. I would never call you that. Anyway, coming up next on the show, we got Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports. Oh, I'm sorry, Johnny Katz is coming up next. Lost my train of thought there. Johnny Katz from the Review Journal coming up next, and we got Mike Babcock coming up in the second hour from TMZ Sports. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take, the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.